Good morning to one and all. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube. I welcome you all to the program of Daily Learning with Lockdown Inspiration for another session of our learning. Thank you for joining us. I see people are commenting as they're arriving, so thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to welcome everybody personally in just a moment. If you're just logging in now, please do comment and let us know you're with us. Okay, great crowd coming on. Let me welcome everyone here who's greeted me personally. Good morning to Shirley Feldman and Felicia Jenks. Thank you. If you're just logging on, good morning, Michael Stain. Yes, a wonderful sunny day. Helen Feinstein, good morning. If you're just logging on, Arlene Dolovitz. I just changed the screen around. 1 second. Right. Norman Stain and Hack. Thank you, Bernice Krause. Marco Stain, yes. Norman, Janice Leibovitz, Gary Sachs. Great to see you all. Let me see who's logging on to YouTube. Shelley Smith, thank you very much, Shelley. I'll get back to your email a little later. Thank you for communicating. We'll follow up then. Very, very happy to see you all here for another session. David Ginsburg, good morning. Larry Cohen, thank you. Look at Mike and Norman. Everyone gets their greetings this morning. Wonderful. Boker Tov, Robert Levy, Maureen Levy, thank you. Alini Dulovitz, Boker Tov. Great. Let's see who's here. D. Tanner from Cape Town. Arnold Orkin, thank you. Anybody logging on from Alberg, let us know you're here. We'd love to connect. I've got more people on YouTube. Ian Clemenson, Stephen Hurd. Yes, we'll learn in memory of your mother, Esther Moshe, Mora Dworkin. Good morning. Thank you very much. We got a great crowd on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you all for joining us here this morning. Fantastic. All right. Just as you're logging on, just as we begin our class, I'd like to make an announcement here on behalf of Aline Yudolovitz, who is online with us right now. She has been collecting food parcels for SA Harvest, who work with the Angel Network to deliver food parcels to the townships. If you'd like to help them, they pick up once a week. Drop off your food parcels at Aline Yudolovitz's home. It's bread, frozen veggies, fruit, or anything else that's not home cooked. You can drop it outside with the guard on 24 Corbel Crescent, Glen Hazel. 24 Corbel Crescent, Glen Hazel. And the Yudolovitzes will arrange for it to be taken, to be picked up and take it to the townships during this challenging time. Thank you, Aline and family, for an amazing initiative. Well done. Keep it going. And it's inspiring to see the amount of initiatives that have opened up and begun during this time. So welcome back for another session. I hope keeping well on a brand new morning. Manfred Kalmik, I see you've commented on Facebook, but I don't think you're on the right class. So log out of that class and come back in to this class of this morning, Monday, 1st of June. Monday, 1st of June is a big day for South Africa because it's a day when things are changing in terms of the lockdown rules. We've been in lockdown for about 8-9 weeks, and now things are changing. Good morning, Avril Walpert. Thank you. Exercise times are changing. The economy, in terms of businesses, more businesses are opening up today. Schools are starting to open their doors today. So it's interesting times ahead as we go into lockdown level 3. My pleasure, Arlene. Lockdown level 3 begins today, 1st of June. But I think we're going to be here for a while in terms of our Facebook learning sessions. Number one is because many of us are at home. And number two is I'm wondering what's going to happen after lockdown. Because engaging with 30 to 40 of you every morning is a highlight. And we'd like to keep it going as long as we can. We'll see if we have to adjust the time in the future. But your feedback is always welcome and thoughts. But thank you for joining us. 10:30 may be a bit challenging for some going into the regular business timetable. But we can assess that too. Tracy Mindel, good morning. Okay, great. We're over 30 students here this morning. I wanted to touch upon an interesting subject that relates to this time of history, this time of the year in which we find ourselves in. And it's the balance between a healthy soul and a healthy body. That's the topic of today, the balance between a healthy soul and a healthy body. Morning, Jaime and Linda. Because what we're going to find is that Judaism very much focuses on both aspects, on both a healthy body and a healthy soul. Just to give you 2 quotes to start off this conversation with. Morning, Shirley and Daryl. Okay, no problem. That's fine. Okay, thank you. I'm happy to hear that Daryl Smith is also with us. Helen Feinstein, thanks for your feedback there. Thank you. 2 quotes I want to start this conversation: a healthy body and a healthy soul. So the Code of Law, Shulchan Aruch, says that one has no right to harm his body, for it is not his property, but God's. Our body is part of God. That's the first quote. And therefore we have no right to harm our body. On the contrary, we have the obligation of making sure that our body is healthy. Morning, Shalom Trigger. The second quote, in the name of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who said that a sound and a healthy body is dependent on a sound and healthy soul. The more healthy the soul, the more healthy the body. I think we can say that the other way around too. It says, there's a Yiddish phrase, that a hole in the body, meaning a damage, meaning a blemish on the body, actually ends up being a blemish on the soul as well. So what we see from these sources is that body and soul actually go hand in hand. While many people may think that the body represents physical. Just 1 second. Many people may think that the body represents physical and the neshama, the soul, represents spiritual. And seemingly the body and the soul are in conflict to each other. And many times they are in conflict to each other. Good morning, Lionel Reuben. In many cases, the body pursues physicality, the mundane and material. And the neshama, the soul, seeks for and yearns for spirituality. That's the case in many times. And so they're often at conflict with each other. What we're seeing from these sources, good morning, Manfred. I'm happy you made it here. What we're seeing from these sources is that body and soul don't have to be in conflict with each other. Body and soul ideally are supposed to work with each other, hand in hand, to complement one another. As I mentioned in the Rebbe's name, a sound and healthy body is dependent on a sound and healthy soul. We'll elaborate on that in a moment. And vice versa, a hole or a blemish in the body is a hole or a blemish in the soul. So we see from these quotes, these statements, is that the two actually go hand in hand together. Let's elaborate on those 2 points. Let's start with this one. Number one, a sound and healthy body is dependent on a sound and healthy soul. Meaning to say that no one should ever convince themselves that their body sustains itself, or that the doctor ensures our body's safety, or the doctor ensures that we remain safe and secure or sound. No one should ever convince themselves that we have control over our body and the health of our bodies. Yes, we have to do the exercise we're supposed to do. And yes, we have to eat properly, as is advised by halakha and the doctors too. Yes, we have to take care of our health. But nobody should ever convince themselves that the health of a person and their body is entirely in their hands. Because it's not. Any doctor will tell you that they're only a messenger, they're only an emissary, they're only a conduit for God's blessings. Well, I can't say any doctor will tell you, because not all doctors will admit that. But we know that the doctor is an emissary of God. That's his role in this world. And ultimately, it's going to be God who's going to sustain and supply and provide the health for this individual. How does God do that? How does God ensure? How does God sustain the health of our body? Sure, it has to be the combination of my efforts together with God. Absolutely. We spoke about this a little while ago when we spoke about the fire on top of the altar. Then on top of the altar, there was this lion-looking fire. It was called the Ariel, right? Ariel. This fire sitting on the Mizbeach, on the altar, that was a fire brought down from God. It was continuous and eternal and everlasting, and it sat there on the altar. But together with that, the Kohen also had to light a fire, because there had to be the partnership between man and God. It had to be the input that we give and the response and the return that God gives. So when it comes to the health of an individual, we know that yes, we have to make sure that we take care of our bodies, and the medical practitioners assist us in doing so, and they make sure that help in the health of our body. But let's not convince ourselves. Ultimately, it's in God's hands. And how does God fuel? How does he sustain the body? It's by us making sure that our neshama is healthy. When we have the right combination of body and soul, then the soul assists the body. As I mentioned, a sound and healthy body is dependent on a sound and healthy soul. When our soul is healthy, then our bodies can be healthy too. We've got to make sure that our neshamas are healthy. I've got a brother-in-law, Esti's brother, who is a hand surgeon in Israel. He's a South African-born boy. His name is Moti Vigler. He grew up as a young child, always aspiring to become a doctor. And he eventually went on to become an orthopedic surgeon. And then from that, he specialized once again into hand surgery. See, today he's a hand surgeon in Israel in the Sharon Hospital of Petach Tikva. And he often tells his patients that I am not the source of healing for your arm, for your hand, for your elbow. I'm not the source of healing. Ultimately, God's the source of healing. And the way we're going to bring God into us is through our neshama, through the spiritual, and that will help our bodies get healthy. And therefore, he often suggests and requests of his patients that come in for all sorts of hand and arm injuries, he requests of them to put on tefillin. And he says, if you put on tefillin and make sure that your neshama is healthy, then you have a good chance in making sure that the body is healthy. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to disregard the body, and we'll get to that in phase 2. No one's suggesting to disregard the body. What we are suggesting is to take care of the neshama, take care of the soul, of the spiritual, of the mitzvot that we do, because that will assist and enable our bodies to get more healthy. I see Brian's made a comment here. Brachot, elevate the physical to be in sync with the neshama and mitzvot. Exactly. Thank you. Now, part of sustaining the neshama, the soul, in order to sustain the body, is the mind space that a person is in. Much has been written about the mind of a patient in hospital. I know Daryl Smith was online with us. I think he's watching from YouTube. And I'm sure he can tell you that when the mind of the patient is healthy and positive, the greater the chance of healing of the body is. The mind is in control. If the mind is positive, and I mentioned the mind, the spiritual side, being mitzvot and the observance of Torah mitzvahs. But in addition to that, it also means having emunah, having faith, having bitachon, having trust. Trusting that God knows what he's doing, that he's in control. That's a very, very important part of the healing process. Much has been written about the psychological position of patients in hospital and how positive psychological disposition ensures the safety and the health of the body too. You got to have a healthy body, a healthy soul. We'll come to the body too. But you got to have a healthy mind. You got to have a healthy soul. That soul needs to be positive. I'll share with you a story that's recorded about the Rebbe, that in 1977 he had a heart attack. It was during Simchas Torah Hakafos. Can you imagine? In shul was packed, and the Rebbe was dancing Hakafos, and suddenly he went white like a sheet. And during Hakafos, the Rebbe had a stroke. He had a heart attack, sorry. And this is in 1977. Anyway, he insisted on giving a talk to the community the next day at the end of Yom Tov, after Simchas Torah was over. Anyway, then a few days later, the doctors asked the Rebbe and said, "How are you feeling today?" He says, "I'm feeling physically well, but mentally I'm not feeling so well." Why? Because I haven't had the chance to visit the grave of my father-in-law in quite a few days now. As we know, the Rebbe would visit the Frierdiker Rebbe's grave, his father-in-law's grave, to daven on behalf of Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people. And he hadn't managed to get there because of his illness, because of how unwell he was. So he says, physically I'm feeling fine, but mentally I'm not feeling fine. My neshama is not feeling stronger. So the doctor said, you must take care of your health. If not, there's a 25% chance of relapse. So the doctor said, "Rebbe, do you understand what I'm telling you?" And the Rebbe said, "Oh yes," with a smile. "Oh yes, I understand what you're telling me. You said that even if I don't take care of my health, which I assure you I will do, there is a 75% chance that there won't be a relapse. Again, even if I don't take care of my health, which I assure you I will do, there's a 75% chance that there won't be a relapse." Listen to the mindset that the Rebbe used. He wasn't focusing on the 25% chance of relapse. He was focusing on the 75% chance of there not being a relapse. That's an important point. That shows the strength of mind, the strength of the neshama. And here it's ironic because here the Rebbe told the doctor that he's feeling mentally unwell. He's not feeling well because he hadn't had the chance to visit his father-in-law's grave. And yet, to be able to respond with such clarity, to be able to focus on the 75% chance of no relapse and not focus on the 25% of a relapse, shows how strong the Rebbe was mentally, how strong he was spiritually inside. So that's the importance of making sure. And I think the same thing applies now during this time period. Hi, Tamar. Thank you for joining us. I think this applies and is so relevant to this time period that we find ourselves in now during this lockdown. And as level 3 begins, and we're now headed back out into society and schools and work and whatever else, and shuls, please God, eventually too, there's a lot of concern. And the concern is on twofold. Number one, the concern is on a medical level. And that's an important level to focus on, the health of the body. That means wearing masks, washing our hands, sanitizing, etc. At the same time, there's also a psychological challenge. The psychological challenge is, are we ready for this? And are we maybe scared to go out onto the streets? Maybe we're scared to engage. Maybe we're scared we're going to, attract the virus or transmit the virus. That's a worry. And so the worry is equal between the physical, meaning the body, and the medical, versus the mind, the spiritual, and the psychology of it. And I think that we're going to get onto the physical in a moment. We'll get onto the body in a moment. But let's just finish off with the soul. I think that while we move into lockdown level 3, we have to be focused intellectually and emotionally. We've got to have trust and faith. That doesn't mean to put ourselves in a place of danger. And those of us that maybe are on an older age bracket and on a compromised medical level have to be careful before going out. But generally, those who are going out have to have a healthy mind. We've got to focus. We've got to be positive. We can't walk around like freaks who are constantly naive or paranoid, should I say, constantly paranoid and concerned and worried which table was touched by which person. Are they carrying the virus? Are they not carrying the virus? We've got to calm down. We've got to have emunah. We've got to have faith. We've got to have trust in God. That's an important element of survival, not just when you're lying in a hospital bed, but even when you're focusing, when you're functioning as a regular human, you got to have that sense of a healthy mind, a healthy soul. Before I move on to the health of the body, I want to welcome everyone here this morning. Those of you that are just logging on a bit late, it's great to have you. If you are just logging on, we'd love to hear from you. So please put your name in the comments or the greetings. Over 30 students are with us on both platforms of Facebook and YouTube. So thank you for being here. Those of you that are watching on Facebook, I'd love to ask you to share. There's 2 ways you can respond to this class. Either you can like the class or share the class. If you share the class, it's going to reach a lot further. So why don't you like and share the class? And that way, all your friends will be able to know what you're up to. And YouTube is not as simple. So no stress to the YouTubers. All good. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share them for us to engage with you personally. Let's now focus on the other side of the coin. The other side of the coin is the importance of the health of the body. And here we say, as I mentioned, if there's a hole or a blemish or a sore in some level of the body, it's going to affect the neshama. It's going to affect one's functioning as a Jew, as a human being. And therefore, we dive into Hashem all the time, that we should have a healthy body. Having a healthy body is not a contradiction to Judaism. Many people think that having a healthy body is indulgence into the physical and the mundane. Rather disregard your body. Who cares? Ultimately, it's all about the soul. It's all about the spiritual. That's not the Torah way. The Torah way is very, 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 very important to sustain and to nurture and to exercise the health of the physical body, because the physical body is what sustains the health of the soul. Believe it or not, the soul is healthier when there's a healthy body. Stephen Hirsch shares on YouTube, the Rambam wrote a book, Nature's Wealth, where he mentions about looking after one's body. The Rambam writes a lot, Stephen, about the health of the body. Absolutely. So the body is healthy. We have a number of verses, a number of sources to show the importance of the body. Where do you see in Judaism? So first and foremost is the famous vart, the famous pasuk, "V'nishmartem ma'od lenafshoi seichem." You must be careful about your health. You must be careful about your health. It's interesting that the word nafshoy seichem, which means health and lives, is the word nefesh. You must be careful with your lives, meaning with your health. And it's hinted to by the word nefesh. Why? Because the health of a person is linked to the neshama of the person. As we said, the more healthy the body, the more healthy the neshama is going to be. And so, yes, we must eat healthily. And yes, we must exercise on a regular basis. Because the more healthy the body, the more healthy the soul. That doesn't mean to overindulge in the body. No one's asking to overindulge the body. And there's going to be a very fine line. You know, where Torah tells us many fine lines. There's a fine line between Friday and then Shabbos. There's a fine line between taking care of our bodies and overindulging in our bodies. But I'm speaking about the positive aspect, that a person has to make sure that their body is healthy, because if they're healthy, then they're going to have a healthier soul. It actually says, we said it in Yom Tov, Ata v'chartana mikol ha'amim. You chose us over all other nations. We say it in the davening, in the Amidah of the davening of the Yom Tov. Ata v'chartana mikol ha'amim. You chose us over all nations. And the commentaries tell us that it's not just the neshama that he chose. It's not just the neshama that he chose. Because for a neshama, as we've mentioned before, our neshamas are slightly different, or are different to a Gentile's neshama. We have that direct portion of God inside of us. We've discussed this before. We have the direct part of God inside of us. We have that neshama inside of us. A non-Jew also has vitality of God inside of them, but it's not tangible. It's not a piece of God within them. That's unique to a Yid. You don't need to choose that. What do I mean? Ata v'chartana mikol ha'amim. What do I mean he chose us? He doesn't need to choose our neshama. Our neshama is different. You only make a choice when you've got a dilemma. You choose this or that, and it looks so similar. You don't know what to choose. You know, like a lolly, like a child choosing a candy, a sweet. The two sweets look the same. That's when you make a choice. You don't choose a neshama of a Yid. God doesn't need to choose a neshama. It looks different. It's part of him anyway. So what did he choose? He chooses the body. The bodies of a Jew and the bodies of a non-Jew look the same. So the choice, Ata v'chartana mikol ha'amim, the choice that God makes in the nation of the Jewish people is in their bodies. He's choosing their body. What does it show us? It shows us that the body is healthy. The body is part of the equation. That the body is holy, should I say. That's the word. The body is holy, just like the neshama is holy, because the body goes hand in hand with the soul. This is the reason why Judaism does not believe in cremation. Why, according to halakha and Jewish practice, burial of the body is the way to deal with the body after the passing of a loved one in this world. Cremation is destroying the body. You would only destroy the body if the body is considered filthy. You only destroy the body if the body is considered useless. But if the body is holy, then you don't destroy the body, you bury it in the ground. And as we know that Tchiyat HaMetim is going to come. Tchiyat HaMetim is the resurrection of the dead, which, please God, we will merit to. In the world come, it will be Tchiyat HaMetim, and according to the Ramban, Nachmanides, Tchiyat HaMetim is going to be a combination of body and soul coming together once again. Why is the body and soul coming together once again? Because the body is holy. And although in this world the body is finite and limited, and although in this world the body only manages to live or to exist for a number of years, call it 120 years, we know that in the future world the body is going to live forever, eternally, because body and soul are going to come together again. And they're going to form their partnership once again. And the body is going to see what its true purpose was. And that was to become holy. And that's why we have the responsibility of taking care of the body, of making sure that it's healthy. On that note, let me share with you an anecdote which shows the importance of the physical side of things. A man who was very ill once came to a rabbi for advice. He had the choice on the option of two doctors. One was God-fearing, but not considered an expert in his field, and the other was an expert, but not particularly religious. To whom should I go? The sick man asked the rabbi. And the response was, go to the better qualified doctor, the rabbi replied. For God has given the doctor permission to heal with his medical knowledge, and the better expert is therefore better equipped to heal. What do we see from this response? Go to the doctor who's more qualified, not to the doctor who's more God-fearing. In fact, the same anecdote or the same story was said regarding a bris milah, the circumcision. Who do we go to for a bris milah? Who should we choose as a mohel? Thank God here in South Africa, in Johannesburg, we have outstanding mohalim, and in Cape Town too, outstanding mohalim. And the dilemma that I'm about to share with you is not relevant to our mohalim. It's not relevant to our mohalim here. Larry Cohen, I see your question. I'll come back to that in a moment. We may have to leave that for tomorrow. But thank you for instigating such a question. It's a heavy question. But we'll come back to it in a moment. I'll share it in just a moment. So the same things. So this dilemma regarding Brit Milah and circumcision doesn't apply to our mohalim here in South Africa. But there's a dilemma. Do I choose a mohel who's more God-fearing, or do I choose a mohel who's more experienced in circumcision? That's the question. And the answer, if I've got the choice of two, or I'm not sure which one to choose, I'm not sure which character trait or quality should I choose. The one is more God-fearing, or the one is more experienced? And the response is, choose the one who's more experienced, if that's what's important to you. If it's important to you to have experience, then choose the one with better experience. Because ultimately it's a physical procedure. And for a physical procedure on my physical body, I want to make sure that it's healthy, because I've got the responsibility of making sure that my body is healthy. Larry Cohen, I assume your question comes because I mentioned that God has chosen our bodies, and our bodies have to be buried in the ground, because that's the respect we show towards a holy body. So Larry Cohen asks on Facebook, he says, can Jews donate organs? And that's your question. Your question is, if the body is holy and the body must be buried, then how do we donate organs? So that being said, let me answer that simply speaking. Take, for example, a kidney transplant. So a kidney transplant, which is quite a straightforward procedure, doesn't always happen. You got to find a compatible match. But let's say a kidney transplant in halakha is kosher to do that. Why? Because you're saving another life. To give of your organ to save another life, pikuach nefesh, and that's the other area that this all ties into, and that is pikuach nefesh. To save another life, we even give an organ, like a kidney transplant, because you're going to save another life. Another life is of utmost importance to their lives and to our life too. So we've had here over 35 students across Facebook and YouTube. I welcome you all. Thank you all for joining us. We've had a great discussion regarding bodies and souls, healthy bodies and healthy souls. We focused on how to make the mind healthy and the neshama healthy with trust and faith in God. We've spoken and doing mitzvot. We've spoken about the health of the body and making sure we're eating well and we're exercising. And we're also taking care of our bodies with medical experts. And it's going to be the combination of both that ensure the health and the stability and the ideal partnership between body and soul. I've enjoyed having you all with us. I thank you all for joining in live on our daily learning session. Join us once again tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. for another session. In the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to send them through to me. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to engage with you either live or after the event, after the share, after the class. Take care, keep safe, and keep sane, and keep spiritual. God bless.